Jerry Brown here with Jerry Brown Travels.
Lori here.
Hey, in this video we're going to show you how an expat has decided to leave the United States and move to Mexico. We're going to get his opinion on why he's made that choice and the reasons here. And also, a lot of Americans are choosing Mexico in 2017. And you know, they have a good reason to, because the economy is so much cheaper down here to live.
Yeah, if you get half price, you can stretch your money longer.
Yeah, so your money, your budget will last a lot longer. On what you would spend up in the States, you can get it for half price down here. So let's interview an expat here and let's let him tell us why he has chosen to get out of America and come to Mexico. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is real estate and what it costs here in Mexico, here in San Miguel de Allende. And Greg is besides an architect, he also is a real estate agent here. So Greg, give us your background, what's the name of your company? And my question I want to start out with is, what would somebody ask a real estate agent, you know what I mean, when they're first coming to Mexico, what would be some of the questions that they would, you know, be prepped up to ask a real estate agent?
Well, I'm Greg Gunter with Coldwell Banker Smart, the Coldwell Banker franchise here in town. I market myself as the Dream Pro because I'm good at finding you your Dream Pro home, your dream home. And this is one of them that we have just seen here. A lot of people, when they come here, one of the very first questions they ask is, where would I look for? What were the best neighborhoods? In Mexico, we call them colonias, the neighborhood. And like the old saying in the United States that location, location, location is everything, it's very true in Mexico. Because neighborhoods can change from block to block. I mean, it can be a big difference from just literally from one block to the next. So that's usually one of the first questions that people ask is, you know, where are the best and safest areas to look?
Okay. What about, I imagine, gated communities?
Gated communities are popular. Some people prefer that because it's good for a sense of community and security. I live in one that's a little small gated community with a 24-hour velador, which is, the velador is the Spanish word for a watchman. Okay. So it's like having a doorman in New York. He takes my packages and gets my mail and, you know, takes care of me, and he can walk the dog, and, you know, that's a very nice asset to have. People like a little bit more of an authentic feel of Mexico. They feel like a gated community is a little too sterile sometimes for them. So it really just depends on what you're looking for from a lifestyle perspective.
Then possibly too, what about the infrastructure? You know, we hear of Mexico as being a third world country. What about that, you know?
We have very good infrastructure here. We're in the process of getting fiber optic cable, for instance, so we'll have 20 megabyte speed for fiber optic cable by the end of the year, and it's the middle of the year now. So I've got 10 megabyte speed now, so it's a good infrastructure. You'll find a couple of potholes in Mexico, yeah, but that's a good trade-off for the amount of property taxes that you pay. To kind of give you a good feel for that, a $500,000 house, so you know, pretty nice house here. Not the most luxurious, but certainly above kind of a starter level home. Right. Taxes on a $500,000 house would run about $850 a year.
$850 a year?
Yeah. I have a lot of clients that come from the coast and they say, is that per week or per month? And I'm like, no, that's for the whole year.
Yeah. Now what about insurance on a home?
A lot of people don't have insurance on their homes in Mexico because we have no natural disasters. In this part of Mexico, in central Mexico, we have no natural disasters, and the homes are all built of masonry. Okay. So nothing can burn down. Okay. It's, you know, labor here is also about 50 pesos an hour, which in today's exchange rate is a little over $2.50 an hour for relatively skilled labor. Okay. So you can get something repaired or fixed for, you know, way less than what your deductible would be, for instance, in the United States. So most people don't have insurance here. They don't need it. So that's another one of the cost savings of living in Mexico is most people do not have any kind of insurance on their home because there's no need for it.
Now, what about zoning? You know, in other words, say somebody buys a house, you know, in a little small area, and there's a vacant lot next door, and they got a quiet neighborhood and everything else. What about zoning? Can a mechanic, you know, open up his business there and work on cars all night, or maybe a carpenter, so you hear the saws grinding away all night? What about zoning? And what should somebody who's, you know, looking at buying here, what should they look out for?
Well, the first thing you should look out for, the first thing you should look for is a good realtor. That's going to steer you.
We got one right here.
Yeah, we got one right here. That's going to steer you in the right direction, because that's a good point. That's a very good point. The central part of San Miguel de Allende is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it is a protected zone. So within that, the boundaries of that protected zone, they can't do that.
Okay.
But it's a relatively small area. It's a little more than 8 city blocks. It's that UNESCO World Heritage Zone. So you get that, and yet you're still not in a gated community or an area that has an HOA of some sort. That's a challenge. So you can get into areas where they might have a bar, a disco right next door to a home. I mean, there's a home for sale 2 blocks away that it's been on the market forever because it's right next to a bar. So it's good to know who your neighbors are, and building a lot next door, the only thing that you can be assured is that they can only go 8.5 meters in height.
Okay.
So you know the height restriction, but they're a little bit more flexible in the use.
Okay.
So someone might open a little shop, a little tienda next door, and if it's in one of the more mixed neighborhoods, yes, you may actually have someone working on cars next door. So work with a good realtor that's going to steer you in the right direction of knowing which neighborhoods are going to be safer from not having a workshop or a tire guy that's, changing tires next door to you.
Yeah, great, that's good advice. Now another thing is, in the sense of central location, if you're right here in the main central part of the village, or actually this is a city, but what about conveniences, let's say the stores and stuff like that?
And let me kind of correct you, Jerry, because it's really more of a village. We really think of it more as a village. We were a Pueblo Mágico, which means magic village, literally translates as village, up until a few years ago when we got the UNESCO World Heritage Zone.
Yeah.
The city proper is only about 85,000 people. Our municipality is 140,000 people, but the city proper, what you and I would think of as the city where we walked everywhere, is only 85,000 people. So we offer the amenities of a big city. I mean, we have 320 restaurants here, for instance, 80 of which are great, really good ones, and a lot of little hole-in-the-wall places that are, still pretty good. So we have the amenities of a big city, but it's really a small town. And everything I might have mentioned a little earlier, our parochia is our Eiffel Tower icon for the city. So everything here is measured in terms of the sightline and the distance to the parochia. So I live 10 minutes away from the parochia, which is considered ideal. To really be within about a 10 to 12 minute walk or less of the parochia is really very much in demand, also very expensive. It's more expensive to be in that short of a distance. But as long as you're about a 15-minute walk away from the town square, our town square here is called the Jardín, and it's literally what you used to think of as the old town square in the U.S., the little towns that had a little town square. So if you're about a 15-minute walk away, you never need a taxi, you never need worry about, carrying groceries or carrying packages, or it's a very short, convenient walk. So being within a 15-minute radius all the way around. And flatter is more preferred. We are in a little teacup, so you can get on the eastern side of town and be in a little bit more of a hillside. The trade-off there, of course, is that you have fantastic views, but you have a little bit of an uphill walk. So people that love those kind of vistas, for instance, will look in those areas and walk to Centro and take a taxi back up. For 40 pesos, for $2, you can take a taxi anywhere.
Okay, very good. Okay, Greg, now this is very important. This is what our viewers really want. They want to know what the cost is here. A lot of times people hear about San Miguel as being very expensive. And tell us, what the ranges of homes are.
Pricing can really range all over the map. Again, it depends on your lifestyle. It depends on your comfort level with being in a Mexican community. It depends on your ability and desire to walk everywhere as opposed to having to get in a car every time you go. So I market myself as the dream pro when I say there are dream homes at every price level, and I've sold them from $89,000 to $2 million. So when you're getting under about $250,000, for instance, in San Miguel de Allende, you're in a more mixed neighborhood. You'll see some unfinished construction. You'll see maybe a little bit of graffiti. It's going to be a sort of a different lifestyle. You have to be comfortable with that sort of lifestyle. That's going to be a little further away. It's going to be a fair bit further away from Central, for instance. So more than likely, you will often have to get into a car, a taxi, to get to the heart of the activity. To get closer to town, really a starter price is about $300,000, where you can still walk everywhere in town, be in a comfortable neighborhood, be relatively secure. You really need to get into the $300,000 to $600,000 range to kind of get into a comfortable level in central or close to central. Something that's within about a 10 to 12 minute walk to town would be that price range. And then of course we have tons of wonderful, beautiful mansions here that can run. But this is the interesting thing now, when people think that it's expensive, especially when they're coming from the coast. $2 million here will buy you a huge mansion. We only sell about one $2 million home a year here in San Miguel, so they're very rare. You can get a gorgeous mansion here for $1 million or $1.25 million. So relative to the coast, when I have a lot of people coming, for instance, the house that we just toured, a lot of coastal people say this would be a $3 million home on the coast.
Sure.
And down here it's a $700,000 home. So it's a world of difference from a value perspective. So you really have kind of three tiers of pricing here.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a different location, and sounds like sort of $300,000 is in an entry level where you probably, for most people coming from North America, feel comfortable, and that's no different than any other place, in California or Dallas or New York, wherever it is. There's different neighborhoods that you feel more comfortable in, safer, and stuff like that. So, so the range of homes in here, probably 300,000 to up. But probably, what do you figure most generally people are buying at what range? 300 to 500?
Well, I'll give you a good statistic. We are part of the National Association of Realtors here in San Miguel de Allende, the association in the United States. There's a sister organization called the AMPI down here, and we track those statistics. 86% of all of our sales are under $300,000.
Okay.
So a good chunk of our sales are at that under $300,000 mark.
Okay. Actually, San Miguel isn't that expensive. I mean, I thought, coming here that it was going to be all in the $700,000 and up.
You could definitely find the affordable homes. And so the trade-off is, if you want a single-family home and it's going to be under $300,000, you're going to be in a more mixed neighborhood.
Right.
If you say, I don't really care if it's a home, a condo's fine with me, I can find you a gorgeous condo for under $200,000, for instance.
Wow.
With a swimming pool and a clubhouse and all those kinds of amenities.
Okay, great.
So you really have a good broad range here. And I've sold homes as low as $89,000. So you can. That's rare. That's rare. I have to admit, that's very rare that you find that, and it's not a neighborhood that most people would be comfortable living in.
Right.
But that'll kind of give you a range of homes here.
Great. This has been fantastic. I know you've given our viewers a lot of information here. And appreciate your time.
You bet.
Okay.
Come on down and visit.
Yeah, and what we're going to do down below in the description, all of Greg's information is going to be his contact, his email, his website, and get a hold of him directly, and he'll be able to answer any questions that you may have.
It's got lots of great information about San Miguel in general, about the lifestyle here, not just about homes. So you can learn a lot more about coming down to visit or coming down to rent for a month, and happy to help in any way that I can. A lot of people like to explore before they get here.
Yeah.
So that's part of what I play tour guide as much as I do realtor.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Happy to help. Come on down.
Lori, I really liked that interview. That his choice of moving down here, he seemed to be very happy, and it looked like a long-term, commitment that he's chosen here.
Yeah, I think so. I like that interview. Maybe that because a lot of people move into Mexico, that's the reason, because the cost is almost like a half price wherever you live in USA.
So Lori, right now, we would like to ask our viewers there if they could subscribe. We are trying to boost our subscription rate, and if you could help us out by just hitting that subscribe button, leave us a comment, and we're going to
Send you a video every week.
Right, and it's free. Thank you.
Free. Please subscribe or thumb up.